welcome to episode 9 of Pins and Needles, my crafting blog. My name is Zoe. You can find me on Instagram as Pins and Needles UK and on Ravelry as BFG. I'm coming to you from South Wales. I live right on the coast in South Wales, and the weather is being in-betweeny today. It's a bit overcast, a bit sunny, and definitely cooling off a bit for autumn. A big hello to some new subscribers. I've been chuffed as nuts to see my number of subscribers going up and up every time I check. So hello to all of you new bugs and welcome back to any of my regular viewers. This is going to be a bit of a lengthy episode, so I hope you have some time and a very large cup of something, because this is going to be a bit of a humdinger. I put my Tenby vlog up a week ago. That was our family holiday, and I thought you might be interested to see what we got up to. So have a little look at that if you'd like to see what we've been doing. And then it's been a busy couple of weeks as usual. Kids are still on summer holidays, but we went after Tenby. We were home for a couple of days. And then I went with Jenny of Owl About Yarn and Ellie of Tith and Bryn down to Ellie's small holding. She bought a small hobby-sized farm in West Wales and very kindly invited Jenny and I and all of our children and dogs and everything down to her farm for a couple of days. So we had a lovely time there. Roasted marshmallows, ate barbecues, did some knitting, played with the dogs, rolled in the hay. It was really, really lovely. The other thing I would like to say is Happy New Year! I'm not crazy. I promise I'm not crazy. I don't know about you, but September is my new year. I'm not fussed about January. It's just the middle of winter and bleh, miserable. But September, when the air starts to get cooler and crisp, the children go back to school, it feels like a proper fresh start. So I've got my pins section, my sewing section, my needles knitting section, and my Two's Company section as well. And as well as talking about finished objects and works in progress, I also talk about my plans, because New Year, autumn New Year, is the time for new beginnings and some new plans. So I've got lots and lots to show you this time. I've got piles all around me. I can't actually fit the things to show you on my usual side table, so it's going to be quite a big episode. I'm going to jump straight in to pins, my sewing section. Now, I have a confession to make. I have shelved the Seamwork Western Shorts pattern. I'd got as far as tracing the pattern and adding some modifications, but to be honest, I just don't think it's worth starting summer shorts at this time of year. The weather's getting cooler and no, I'll definitely sew them. They are a lovely looking pair of shorts, but I've put those to one side for now. The other work in progress I have that I did mention before is the Simple Sew denim skirt from the Chelsea collection. I've got the pattern envelope here. So it's just a panelled denim skirt. It's pattern number 031, and I was going to make the skirt, which is view B. Can't really see it terribly well. Anyway, it's a denim skirt, buttons up the front, nice and simple. And I have actually made some progress on it. I'm sat on it. Hang on a second. Here we are, look. So I've got some lovely indigo denim, which I bought from Butterfly Fabrics in Cardiff. The skirt comes in several panels, and I've got as far as sewing all the panels together. I'm rather pleased with how invisibly they've turned up, actually. And if I show you the inside, because crafty people always want to see the insides. Look at that. So what I did was, when I'd cut the panels out, I dug out my overlocker and I overlocked all of the edges before I did anything else, so they're nice and tidy. And then you sew all of the panels together all the way along. front panels of the skirt have a double fold, obviously one side for the buttonholes, one side for the buttons, and these are interfaced as well. I considered different coloured top stitching, but if I'm honest, I wanted to crack on. I want this skirt ready to wear as soon as possible because it's going to be a lovely summer into autumn useful piece of clothing in my wardrobe. So I stuck with same colour thread. You can just about see it. And I zoomed down both edges here. Just helps keep it in place, keep it tidy. I actually did a pretty good job, I think, but I'm not sure I'm quite up to different coloured top stitching thread. So that's how far I've got. I was in between sizes on this pattern. I have a 37-inch waist, and patterns go up in increments of 2 inches. So the 36 was going to be too small, the 38 would be too big. So I went for the 36-inch size, and rather than a 5/8 seam, I took a 3/8 seam, which I seem to do quite a lot. Unfortunately, I think it's come out a bit too big. The pattern, these are simple patterns, and they don't give you an enormous amount of information on the packet. So they give you everything you need, fabric requirements and the sizes, but they don't give you a finished garment size, which I find a little frustrating. So the next stage on this is to attach the waistband, which I've dropped. But I just sort of held it up round me, overlapped the front placket, I suppose, the button band bit, and I think it's going to be too big. So I can't quite decide what to do. I've got about an inch more than I need around my waist, so I may well have to unpick my beautifully done seams and use the 5/8 seam allowance they recommended. It won't take very long, it's just a little frustrating. Anyway, so that's the next stage. I've got to put the waistband on this, that should be easy, and then it is buttonholes. Now I've never done buttonholes before, so that's my new skill for this pattern. My machine has an automatic buttonhole foot, and I've got loads of this fabric, and I saved some of the scraps from cutting out so I can have a good go, a good couple of practice runs. I do need to work out where to put the buttons. The pattern has it marked on the front pattern piece, but I added some extra length to this pattern. I added an extra 3 inches, which actually I don't think I'm going to need because it's long enough already, and I haven't yet put the waistband on, which is a good 2 inches. So when I've attached the waistband, I will try it on and just safety pin the waist, see if I need to take some of the length back off it, and then I need to work out the placement of my buttonholes. I'll need one in the waistband and then probably one every 3 inches, I think, all the way down the length of this. But I finally sewed something. So yes, that is my denim skirt, so hopefully I will have that ready to show you next time. I do have a sewing finished object actually. I've shown you before, just sort of in the needle section, some of the project bags that I've made, and about literally 3 months ago I cut out some fabric for another one and pinned it together, and it was interfaced, pinned together, and on the mantelpiece in my back room, and I just didn't get around to sewing it. I don't know why, I have no excuses, but I wanted a finished object to show you today, so I finally got round to sewing it up. And here it is. This is it's almost a canvas fabric that I got from a fabric shop in Bath a good couple of years ago. I can't remember the name of it, I'm afraid. But I absolutely fell in love with the design. It's got foxes and squirrels and woodpeckers and mushrooms. Pull the fabric out so you can see it. There we are, that's a bit better. And yeah, my mum and I had gone to Bath to do a bit of shopping, and we just walked past this little dark shop in an alleyway and dived in, and I bought 1/2 metre. And then this contrasting spotty fabric It's just some poly cotton that I picked up from Butterfly Fabrics, City Road in Cardiff. And I like a drawstring bag, and I've got some cream ribbon and then one of those squeezy pulls on the top. I ordered those from eBay from China. They're a little smaller than I would like, but they do the job. So it's fully lined with the same spotty fabric, and I don't know if you can see, but I added a pocket. I like a pocket on the inside of my project bags, just stitch markers or a tape measure or something like that. I haven't put anything in it yet. I've got some new cast-ons planned, so I'll choose something nice to put in my project bag. I made a note of the pattern. Yeah, it's the lined drawstring bag pattern by Jenny Baker of In Colour Order, and I'll put her details in the down bar at the bottom, which reminds me, I put all the show notes and links to everything that I mention in the drop down bar underneath this video. I also put timings of my different sections in there, so if you want to skip something or you want to go straight to something else, do check in there, and they give you the timings of the various bits and pieces. Yeah, so In Colour Order lined drawstring bag pattern. It was only maybe £6, and you might think, oh, that's quite a bit for a drawstring bag pattern, but as a newbie I wanted a pattern to follow, and I would thoroughly recommend it. It gives you 6 or 7 sizes of drawstring bag pattern already in there, and there's also a page that is a formula for a custom bag pattern. So if you want a particular size, you can plug the numbers into this sheet and it gives you a formula to follow. This is the project bag size. She has all the way up to a laundry bag size, and there's also some bags specifically sized to fit CDs and DVDs and things like that. So if you like to make fabric bags for Christmas presents and things like that, it's a really nice one, and just takes the brain work out of making a drawstring bag. So I thoroughly recommend that. So I'm quite pleased with that. Now, my New Year plans for sewing. A lot of things that I seem to read on the internet about sewing, bloggers talk about how they need to sew more basics. They sew party dresses and fancy tops, and their wish lists are full of gorgeous things that they just won't wear all the time. I'm the complete opposite. I started sewing because I'm just getting increasingly cross with not being able to find things that fit or things that cost an absolute fortune, and you know, I'm tall, so everything was in the wrong place. I had sleeves that finished here and trousers that never met my ankles, and they were just a bit of a mess. So I started sewing because I wanted everyday clothes that fitted. And I could still do with some of those because I'm so new at sewing. I'm not ready for ball gowns and party dresses. So I have some autumn/New Year plans. I would like to make a shift dress. That's a very basic shape, but a very useful one. You can make cotton ones for summer, you can make jersey ones for autumn, winter. And I've got this pattern, it's New Look K6145. It's rated easy, which is just as well. And I got it free with a sewing magazine quite a while ago. I can't remember which one. And I want to make this version B. So it's just a round neck, 3/4 length sleeves, and it's got some bust darts as well. Yeah, nice and simple. And it says on the back, silks, cotton blends, chambray, peak, lightweight wool, and double knits. So a shift dress pattern. And I also have the Mabel skirt pattern from Colette. There we are, look. So the top two are sort of a mini skirt and a mid-thigh length skirt, and the bottom one is a pencil skirt. So I want to make, I think, this one here. It has a faux button placket down the front, And again, it's rated beginner, which I think will suit me nicely. I've never made a Colette pattern before, but it's another indie pattern company, and it's a lovely, properly bound, and you see the stitching on the spine. It's a properly bound pattern booklet, really nice quality inside, and I'm just trying to find a nice page to show you. The layout on the inside is lovely, really clear drawings, nice clear instructions. And then the paper pattern just comes in this pocket in the back, because you can never get dressmaking patterns back in the bleeding envelopes afterwards, but hopefully with this nice gusset in the back, that will be easy enough to do. This is quite a popular pattern, so I'm confident that if I get stuck on anything, I can just search it, do a Google search, and there'll be all sorts of tips and tricks. And the Colette website, I think it's just colettepatterns.co.uk or something like that. Oh, www.colettepatterns.com. They have loads of tutorials on there. I've looked on there before, so I'm confident that I can make something up. So those are my two plans, a shift dress and a skirt pattern. I wear a lot of leggings for warmth and for comfort, and I think both of these will layer really nicely. I will definitely make a toile of this, because if I can get the pattern modifications for this nailed down, I think a shift pattern is something I will make over and over again in lots of different fabrics. So I'm going to take my time over this one. I've got fabric already for these two things from my stash. I bought these last year when I was hoping to get around to dressmaking, and just for one reason than another didn't start. Now, first up is this. This is a gorgeous, it's a bit of fluff on it. It's a dirty gold mustard Ponte Roma fabric. Again, Butterfly Fabrics in Cardiff. And now Ponte Roma is a knit fabric, but it's quite heavyweight and it has very little stretch in it. So lots of patterns that you make in jersey, you tend not to need fastening, zips or buttons. Ponte Roma you often do. I've got it all bundled up so you can't quite see. It has got a reasonable amount of drape in it, so there'll be some nice movement in the finished article. And it's one of my favourite colours, a rusty gold colour, and it will go with all that sorts of other shawls and accessories that I already have. I've got a lot. I think I've got 4 meters of this, so I could get probably some sort of tunic or shift dress and a skirt maybe as well, so tons of fabric to play with there. This next fabric is also a jersey. Yes, it is. I was just checking. I bought this on eBay, and I jumped onto my account on eBay to see if I could find the details of the fabric or the name of the shop that I bought it from, but it doesn't seem to go back that far. Anyway, here is my other fabric. It's a navy background with a sort of a cream lozenge, and there's a sort of a shadow effect on the lozenges of, again, a lovely golden bronze colour. I'll hold it a bit closer, see if you can, there we are. You see the lovely colours? There won't be any pattern matching issues on this because it's a fairly random pattern. I've never done pattern matching on anything, I'm not quite sure I'm there yet. And again, if I show you, lots of movement in this. It feels lovely and soft. And again, a nice medium to heavyweight jersey, so it'll be nice and cosy. So again, I think I've got 4 meters of this, so I could get a dress and a skirt, or I might try a top. I'm not sure. I do want to make the grain line Linden sweatshirt as well, but I'm not sure if this will be quite the right fabric. I'll need to look that up. But again, my colours, I like navy, and I've been thinking about knitting a cream lacy shawl of some sort, so that would look quite nice. Yeah, so those are my fabrics. Fonte Roma and a medium weight jersey for a shift dress and a skirt and maybe some sort of sweatshirty top thing. I haven't really knit with jersey before. I understand that you need a particular sort of needle. You need a ballpoint needle for your machine, and literally the very tip of the needle is rounded so that it doesn't push through the threads in the fabric. It tends to go between them and doesn't catch. And also, a lot of people I've read on blogs have said that you can sew an entire jersey garment using only your overlocker. So that's quite appealing as well. You can just whoosh things through there and they'll whip up really fast. But as I said, it's a new to me fabric, so I need to put them in the wash. I need to make some toiles, but I'm quite excited to get going on those. And yeah, so watch this space. Oh, there is one other sewing project I've got to do. As I mentioned, my children are going back to school. Today is Friday the 2nd of September, and Jocelyn and Max go back to school on Monday, but Conrad doesn't go back until Tuesday. So I've got a few more days of the summer holidays left. And as every parent knows, this time of year you have to go out and buy endless pairs of new school shoes and PE kit and school uniform. So I have all these lovely fabrics I would love to be sewing with, and what I actually have to do is sit down with a pile of clothing, I think it's nearly a metre high, and start sewing name tapes and everything. You know, the little woven fabric name tapes. I've got one enormous pile of uniform that they have grown out of or that they've just destroyed, and I need to sit down with my seam ripper and take all the name labels out. And then I've got another pile on the other side of the sofa with all the new things that I need to sew their names in there. So that's not terribly exciting, I have to say. But Dave and I are watching Stranger Things on Netflix, and Gotham as well, the Batman prequel television series, and they're quite exciting. So that's ideal name tape sewing television, so I'll get cracking on that tonight. Right, quick drink. It's warming up now, the sunshine's coming out and I'm sweltering. Next up is my needles, my knitting bit. And you may have noticed I am wearing my latest finished object. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm Pins and Needles UK on Instagram, and I put a couple of pictures up of me blocking this out and then wearing it in the back garden in my slippers. I didn't realise that I was still in my slippers. Anyway, so this is the Duchess of Devonshire shawl pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. It's a paid for pattern. You can find it on Ravelry, and it's intended for a fingering weight. You can either do 2 colours, as I did, or one. It looks gorgeous in both. I knitted this in a DK weight yarn. It is Rowan Fine Yarns Cash Soft DK, which it turns out is discontinued. I didn't realise. When I was doing the edge, I was very worried I was going to run out of yarn, so I jumped on the internet to see if I could buy another ball if it was needed, and I found out that it was discontinued. So if you like the yarn, I'm very sorry, there's none left. Right, I'll take it off so you can see. It came out absolutely huge, which is exactly what I wanted. Here we are, look. So you cast on at the top. It's not a garter tab cast on, which is lovely, and then it's alternating bands of garter and stocking stitch eyelets. And you can see there's 1 row of eyelets there, then 2, then 3, and then solid. And it's a crescent shape. I should show you the whole thing. You ready? It's very long. Still going. Still going. Still going. And there it is. So yes, it's a crescent shape shawl to put my teeth in. And you start at the centre by here, and you knit back and forth, And then when you've completed the last garter section, this lace edging is knitted on sideways. It's a technique I really enjoy. So this lace section you end up knitting backwards and forwards, and you can see the lovely texture in the yarn. Absolutely beautiful pattern. So I thoroughly enjoyed knitting this. I did take this on holiday with me to Tenby. I'd knit the first couple of sections before we left, and I got all the way to the end of the final garter section on holiday. I didn't want to start the lace edging because I did need the chart, and I thought that was a bit too much to wrangle. The pattern is beautifully written, really nice and clear. They have, Kay has given you written instructions for the lace and also charts, so whichever you prefer, it's all in there. Yeah, and it was one of those knits where I was sad when it was over. People often talk about whether they're a process knitter or a product knitter, and I'm neither really. I enjoy all of it, but I was very sad when this was over. And it's an absolutely enormous size. Again, if you have a look at my Instagram post, I wear it just draped over my shoulders, and the points almost reach my knees, so it's lovely. And it will bunch up really nicely. When it came to blocking, I do have a set of blocking wires that I bought from Loop, a knitting shop in London. I bought them online. And all I did was I laid my blocking mats out on our garden table, and I ran blocking wires across this top edge all the way along the edge, completely straight, and pinned that wire out. And then I just grabbed each point of the shawl with a T-pin and pulled it out. I didn't measure it, I didn't get too fussy about it, and I didn't block it too hard because I wanted to keep the squishiness of the garter. And yes, I think it blocked out just nicely. You can see the lace beautifully. I gained a lot of extra width and depth as well, so there's plenty of it to go around my neck, but it's kept the squishiness that I really love. And the yarn is wool, acrylic and cashmere, so it really is gorgeous. I love it a lot, and actually I think it will go rather well with the fabric that I'm hoping to make some dresses from, so I shall be terribly coordinated. Do you know what, I might take this off. I'm sorry, the sun's come out and it's absolutely sweltering. So that is my first finished knitted object, so Duchess of Devonshire shawl by Kay Jones. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that I finished a pair of socks. I forgot to put these on my sock blocker. Now these are just plain vanilla socks. I've knitted enough socks, I can make this up as I go along. I didn't follow a recipe. It's a 1x1 twisted rib cuff, 70 stitches on 2.25mm needles, and I knit these on my Addi Turbos. Addi Turbos, I think I did. Magic Loop. I prefer double pointed needles, but I took these on holiday and I didn't want to be dropping double pointed needles in a tent. Now I have quite big feet, which is lovely because the pattern repeat in this yarn is quite lengthy. And by total happy accident, the repeats match almost exactly. And you see, they're slightly more pink. I think I was off by about 10 rows in the end, but I'm rather happy. I wouldn't have minded if they didn't match, but it's rather pleasing that they did come out like this. So yes, this is Regia Floromania, and the colourway is 07185. Now I posted progress pictures of these in my Ravelry group, and quite a few people have told me that this particular shade of Floromania is not colour fast. Regia sock yarn is a fantastic brand. I love it very much. It's a good workhorse German sock yarn, and you can machine wash it and you can tumble dry it, and it's really hard wearing. But for some reason this colourway runs. I don't care. I love it. The yarn was a present that was sent to me by a friend of mine, Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. And the advice I have had is that no matter what you try to do to set it, vinegar, the microwave, it will just bleed. So I won't be washing these with any of my other knitted things. But for socks this gorgeous, I mean, who cares if you have to hand wash it in the bathroom sink by itself? Absolutely stunning. So yeah, I knitted those almost entirely on holiday actually, and I'm very pleased with them indeed. So yes, another finished object, lovely pair of socks. Now you may remember that the last time I did a proper episode, I showed you my Cresswell socks. I have got Rachel Coopy's book, Coop Knit Socks, and I was knitting the Pennycress socks. Not a terribly good picture, but the Pennycress socks from there. I had got all the way down to the toe of the first sock, and I thought you might be interested to see my progress, so here it is. I had to rip the whole sock back out. Oh, I was so disappointed. The sock was gorgeous. I was really enjoying the pattern. I had tried it on. I never do gauge swatches for socks. I knit the cuff and I knit 2 inches of the leg, and then I just try it on because it takes about the same amount of time as knitting a gauge swatch. And if the gauge is fine, you can just carry on. So I did that. I tried it on, and it seemed to fit nicely, but I don't think I pulled it all the way up and over my heel. And so I was ready to kitchen of the toe. And I thought I'll just try it on to make sure it's long enough, because for some reason I've started knitting my sock foot too short. So I tried it on. Oh, sorry, Jim just knocked the table. And I could get it on, but only just. It was a real struggle to get it over my instep, and I was so disappointed. The pattern was all distorted. I'd have worn straight through it, so I ripped it all out. And it's a pity because this yarn is beautiful. This was given to me by Ellie from Tithonbring. And actually, she was taking a bit of a break from yarn dyeing because of her new baby boy, but she'll be getting back up and running with her Etsy shop in the next month, I think, so do keep an eye out. But it's beautiful yarn, and there was my gorgeous little stitch marker from Owl About Yarn, and it was just too small. I'd knitted it on 2mm needles, which the pattern had called for. It was a 72 stitch size that I knit, and I thought 2mm would be fine because lace obviously is quite stretchy, but nope, there was no way. So I ripped it out, and this yarn is going back into my stash to think about what it's done. And at some point I will cast the same pattern back on because it's a perfect match of yarn and pattern. So that's a bit of a shame. I had about 26 grams of the Floromania left. And Jocelyn quite liked my socks, so I might use the rest of this and knit a pair of Rose City rollers, which are just sort of short ankle socks, and I might knit those for her for Christmas. Don't tell her. She sometimes watches the podcast. So that's my progress so far. The other thing I have to show you is a long-term project. It's my blanket of the year, and I keep it in my gorgeous bees and dragonfly bag from the lovely Emma of Eldon Woodcrafts. Nice big bag and really squishy, so it stands up nicely. And when I went to Yarningham in Birmingham in July, I treated myself to 2 packs of mini skeins, and one of them was from Mothie and the Squid. And I've been knitting up these blanket squares, mitered square blanket. Each mini square is 31 stitches, and this is based on the Blanket of the Year pattern, again by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. And I have knit up the whole packet of minis. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 squares. Aren't they gorgeous? I absolutely love these. They're a very satisfying project to do because if you've only got a little bit of time, you can just knit one mitered square. And the yarn colours are beautiful and the stitch definition is fantastic. And I love this ridge that you get down the middle. I'm sorry if the picture keeps wobbling. There's a sunny patch just at the bottom of the table. I have the laptop on and Jim the dog is laid in the sun farting fumes at me and he keeps knocking it. So yes, I've knit 6 of those. I will pick up and knit a garter border around the edge in cream yarn. See, there he goes again. Jim, go on. Yeah, stop wriggling. Yes, I'll pick up and knit a cream border around these. I'm waiting for Jenny to put in her next yarn order and then she can get me some cream yarn. So I've got 6 of those finished. And the other dyer is Jo Knit Sew. I hadn't heard of her before, but her yarns are beautiful. And those are the minis that I bought from her. So this is on her sparkle base, and the pack of minis was called Jimmy. And there's a lovely lemon, and like an apple green, a beautiful rosy pink, and a lilac in the middle, and then this soft charcoal. And I just think they're a really interesting mix. And I hand wound these. I sat down to watch the Great British Bake Off with my kids and I set my Swift up and I wound these by hand, and they're tonal. I haven't got terribly far with the first one. That's the purple. That's as far as I've got. But yes, this is going to be my brainless knitting project. I like to have a different selection of things on the go, and this is my easy television watching project. So Jo Knit Sew, Jimmy Minis, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting cracking on more of those. So that was my next one. Oh, I didn't bring it with me. You may or may not remember that I was knitting the Epistrophe cardigan by Kate Davis Designs. She published a book a while ago called Yokes, and that was the design that I fell in love with the most. The last time I showed you, I'd knitted the body and the sleeves, and I was about to start the colourwork yoke. I needed to join the arms and body together and get going on that. I did make a start. I was knitting different sizes for the hips and the waist, and a third different size for the sleeves. So for the first joining row, I just knit it, joined them all together, and then counted the stitches to see how many I had. The trouble was I had had 2 glasses of wine. So I think my counting was a little bit off, and I wasn't in a good place for maths. So I put that to one side, promptly went on holiday and sobered up, and haven't picked it up since. So I need to rip out that joining row, count everything, and depending on how many stitches I have, I will just find the nearest, the closest size for my stitch count that the pattern has. And you have about 1 inch of plain single colour knitting before I start the colourwork yoke. So I can use that inch to decrease the stitches down to the correct number and start the colourwork yoke. But I'm really keen to get that finished because I enjoy colourwork very much. It's a lovely geometric design, so it won't be too complicated. And I want the finished object. I'm a bit short of just everyday cardigans, and it really won't be long before the weather starts turning. So I think I'm going to pick up the Epistrophe cardigan. That will be my main project, my complicated project. And I've got the blankets for when I need something quick and simple. So yes, my New Year plans for knitting. Get cracking on the Epistrophe cardigan again. I showed this, I think, the last time, but when I went to Toft Alpaca, I bought a ball of Toft Aran yarn in Fudge 12103, and an alpaca pom-pom to go with it. And I'm going to be knitting a fairy snowcap hat, which is a pattern by Romy Hill, knit from the top down. So one of my favourite podcasts to watch is Kill to Craft, which is a lovely UK podcast hosted by Nessa. Hi Nessa. And she is hosting a knit along in her podcast group on Ravelry, along with Twee from the Twisted Stitches podcast. It's called the Harvest Hat Along, and it has a hashtag on Instagram of hashtag Harvest Hat Along 2016. There's a thread in the Kill to Craft podcast group and in the Twisted Stitches, and you just knit a hat and enter it. You can enter more than once. So that fairy snow cap is going to be my cast on the first day that all of my children are in school again and I'm at home all day. So I'm really excited about casting that on. The Kill to Craft podcast is well worth a watch. So if you've got a bit of spare time, nip over to find Nessa's podcast and subscribe to that. That is well worth watching. The other project I need to pick back up, I forgot to bring it with me, is my Perianth Mittens pattern. That's by Barbara Gregory. And I was knitting those for my mum. If you remember, quite a few episodes ago now, I'd made Mum some beautiful Latvian colourette mittens, which she used all the time, but lost. So I promised I would knit her some more. It's her birthday on the 30th of October, so I would love to get them finished for then, because that's when she'll really start wishing she still had some mittens. I'm a bit unsure about the yarns I've got. I'm using West Yorkshire Spinners in a lovely pink colour, and I'm using some Zettel Valbella, some Lidl yarn for the cream, and I think that the cream is just a little bit thinner than the West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's not quite looking right. I might need to steam block it on the needles to see if the cream will plump out, because it's distorting the pattern a little bit, but I'll get back on that as well. That's colour work, so I will finish the colour work on my epistrophe cardigan first. And then when I'm on to button bands and things for that, then I can pick up the mittens and get cracking on those as well. The other thing, again, people that have been watching since the beginning will recognise this, but I thought it would be worth showing again. I'm a big hat wearer in the autumn. I live right on the coast, as I said, and it gets very windy, very wet. Hoods get blown down. There's no point having an umbrella, so you get through an awful lot of hats because you wear one hat to take the kids to school and it gets absolutely drenched. So then you need another hat to walk the dog and that gets soaked, and then you have to go and pick the children back up again, so you need a third hat. So I really need to build up my hat selection. And this is the Shetland 2016 Wool Week official pattern. This is a free pattern. You can find it on Ravelry, or I think you can find it from shetlandwoolweek.com, and it's by Ella Gordon, and it is teeny tiny croft houses. I bought this pattern as a kit when I went to Wonderwool, the yarn festival, and the yarn is from Jameson and Smith. There's the yarn label. And it's 2-ply jumper weight. I won't go through all the colourways here, I'll put them in the drop down box, but I'll be knitting it in the recommended colourways, and those are my colourways. So I've got sort of a pale oatmeal, a brown, a green, a blue, and then a darker brown as well. Again, I hand wound those. It's a gorgeous yarn. It's really, well, it's Shetland. It's a Shetland 2-ply. So it's got crunch. It's not scratchy, but it's crunchy. And it smells really sheepy. Can you see? Absolutely beautiful. So it's going to be lovely for colour work. So I've got the yarn and the pattern all bagged up, ready to go. And in my nice IKEA sandwich bag, just to keep the moths away. So that's also on my list of things to knit. And then Conrad, my eldest son, asked me to knit him some fingerless mitts for autumn, so I will have to dive in my stash. His school uniform has quite strict rules, so I think they're going to have to be black. And I think I've got some more black yarn, the same as I'm knitting my epistrophe cardigan in, Sirdar Balmoral DK. So I might whip that up. And I've got a pattern in my Ravelry library called Hansies, a pattern by Anne Hanson of Knitspot. And that is a children's to teenagers fingerless mitt pattern. So it comes in a range of sizes, and there's a number of design options for the back of the hand. You can knit them plain. She's got some a couple of different textured options, and I think there's one lace as well. And I've knit them before. I knit all my children some Hansie mitts a good couple of years ago for Christmas, and of course they've all got lost. So I'll dig that back out, and I think the pattern goes up to 14 years. So, you know, small adult size, so I'll dig that out and get cracking on those. Goodness, that was rather a big section. I do have one acquisition to show you. As I said, we were down at Ellie's small holding for a couple of days. We all took our knitting. That's when I finished my Floromania socks. And Jenny and Ellie are both knitting scrappy sock yarn blankets. Rather than doing individual blocks like I am, they're just knitting all the mitered squares together in a big jumble. There's no colour or design choices, you pick which one you want to do next. So we're all swapping leftovers. So I've bagged up my Mothy and the Squid leftovers to pass on to Ellie. Excuse the scrunching. Because she very kindly gave me some of her leftovers. Now I'm going to try and remember. I can't remember exactly which is which. That is a little bit of the sock yarn that I ripped out. I found a knot in the skein. So that's Ellie's Tithen Brins hand-dyed yarn. This is Misty Alpaca that Jenny gave me. She knitted some socks out of this, so I'll try and look up what the colourway is and put that on. Can you see how fuzzy that is? That's going to be lovely. And I can't remember the yarn names of these, but these are some of the minis she gave me. I love them. I love this brown down at the bottom, that one there. And this one looks autumny to me, looks like green leaves turning and some lovely purples. So when it comes to my sock yarn blanket, I'm going to try and stick to particular squares. So I'll have some Mothy and the Squid squares, I'll have some Jo Knit Sew squares, and then I might have some yarns. I'll have some enough Owl About yarn leftovers to do those squares by themselves, and then I might have some squares that are yarns given to me by friends. So it doesn't matter if they're not the same dyer, they'll just be present yarn squares, which I think will be lovely. And I like that these are multicoloured. All of my other ones are tonal, so it's nice to get some multicoloured. So yes, those are my only acquisitions. Tuck those away. Right, I've got extensive notes this week because I had so much to catch up on. So, on to my final section, Two's Company. And this is the section where I point you in the direction of some interesting blogs or podcasts or books, anything really, things that you can listen to or things that you can watch while you're busy crafting away. Now, first of all, I would like to recommend the Bakery Bears podcast. I mentioned this at the very start. Kay Jones and her husband Dan Jones, same lady that designed my shawl. They're based up in Yorkshire. They're a husband and wife podcasting team, and you probably already have heard of them. They're very popular indeed. And as well as being very lovely and interesting people and knitters, their podcast is quite different. One of their sections is called Favourite Places to Knit. And what they do in that section is they take you with them on interesting trips. So they did a series based on kings and queens of Great Britain, and they visited castles and battlefields around their local area in the north of England, and talked you through some bits of English history. Absolutely fascinating. And they do some question and answers, and Dan is very knowledgeable, so he tells you all about the building's history and the lives of the people that lived there. Absolutely fascinating. And they've just started a Favourite Places to Knit on the Harry Potter theme. So they went to the station where they filmed the train station at Hogwarts, and they visited Malfoy Towers. If you watch the Half-Blood Prince, there's several scenes that take place in the home of Malfoy. And they go to Hardwick Hall and they show you all around there. So I thoroughly recommend Bakery Bears. And in particular, their most recent episode, which is episode 56, they have an interview with Rachel Coopey from Coop Knits. And she's the pattern designer of the socks that I frogged and the author of Coop Knit Socks. And that was about a 10 or 15 minute interview. It starts at about 21 minutes and 30 seconds into episode 56. And Rachel chats about how she got into knitting and designing, thoughts on the Yarny community, some little tidbits about what she's up to for the rest of this year and the next. So I'd thoroughly recommend the Bakery Bears. Go and have a look at them. The second podcast I want to recommend is a fairly new one. It's called So Now What, and is hosted by the very lovely Carrie, who is based just outside of Portland in Oregon. She's only at about 500 subscribers so far, so do go across and have a look at her and subscribe. I came across her by accident, I think, and I've absolutely fallen in love with it. She is the most fantastic quilter. Quilting is not something I do at all, but she is fabulous. And the quality of her podcasts are really lovely. She wears a little microphone, so the sound is excellent, really clear pictures. And she has a gorgeous, the sort of craft room that you dream about, which I think is over her garage. So when you're watching the podcast, she carefully arranges things behind her, and it's just such a feast for the eyes. And every week she has a different quilt block on the wall behind her, which she talks you through. And although it's lovely to see finished objects and works in progress, what I particularly love about Carrie's podcast is she talks in quite a bit of detail about the design process or the patterns involved in the quilting, and how she alters designs, her thought process in choosing the images and the pictures she makes with the fabric. And she's also started dyeing yarn. She has an Etsy shop, and I'll put the details below. And she talks again about the process of dyeing and the mistakes she makes and how she goes about it. Absolutely fascinating, absolutely fascinating. She's got such an eye for colour, and she's tons of fun as well. She gets the giggles and she cracks me up. And in her most recent episode, she shows you some quilt blocks that she made as part of a combined book and quilt club. So the group members would choose a novel, and then they would meet a month later, and every member would have designed and made a quilt block inspired by the book. I think some were making individual blocks, and some were making sort of larger wall hanging pieces, so mini quilts effectively. So that was really fascinating to hear. So yes, So Now What, link in the drop down box. Go and spend some time with Carrie. It's worth every minute. A really fascinating podcast there. My last recommendation is absolutely nothing to do with knitting or sewing, but it is very creative. When Dave and I first moved to Cardiff years and years ago, Dave started teaching Thai boxing classes. And one of the very first people to join was a lady called Louise Walsh, and she became a good friend of ours. And she is a novelist. And yesterday evening, she launched her second novel, and she had a book launch in Waterstones bookshop in Cardiff city centre. And Dave and I took the kids and we went down to help her celebrate the launch of her second novel. And here it is. It's called Black River by Louise Walsh, and it's published by a Welsh publishing house called Carreg Walsh. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this book, it is a fiction novel, but it is based on a tragedy that happened in Wales, which you may not have heard of if you don't live in Wales and if you're not based in the UK. In 1966, there was a terrible disaster in the village of Aberfan up in the valleys in Wales. And there was a colliery just outside the town, and they had a large pile of colliery waste on the side of the mountain. And after several days of heavy rain, the rain mixed with the piles of leftover mining waste and formed a slurry which slid down the mountainside at great speed and half buried the village of Aberfan. And it totally overwhelmed the primary school there, Pantglas Primary School, and 28 adults and 116 children died in that disaster. It's well known about in Wales. Children learn about it in school. And as well as being, a terrible tragedy because of the lives lost and the community destroyed, it quite quickly became a political issue with the National Coal Board and the government, and the media behaviour was pretty appalling as well. And Louise did a lot of research into this, and her novel, Black River, is investigative drama. If I read you a bit from the back, it says, Black River is a powerful piece of investigative drama that draws on the feelings of a wounded nation to show the good and the bad of journalists, politicians and villagers alike. So it's an important piece of Welsh history. I bought a copy for my family, a copy for a friend of mine who couldn't make it to the launch, and also a copy for my children's primary school. I haven't read it. I only bought it yesterday evening, so I haven't had a chance to open it. But I will thoroughly recommend it to you regardless, because her first novel was awesome. It's £7.50 and it is available on amazon.co.uk. I'm not sure if it's on American Amazon, I don't know. But yes, have a read of Black River by Louise Walsh. Right, well that was a bit of a bumper episode. I hope you managed to keep up with me. It was a pretty smart trot through all of my crafty output. In terms of what's coming up, next weekend is the Great London Yarn Crawl. And I'm going to that with Jenny and Ellie. So we will be heading down to Ellie's mum's on Friday of next week. Then the London Yarn Crawl is on the Saturday. And we'll be heading home either Saturday night or Sunday morning. So I'm very excited. I've got a little bit of a shopping list. So that'll be hopefully some interesting things to show you next time. I might try and film a little vlog. Depends how busy and loud it is. It's London, so it might be a bit crazy, but we'll see. I'll take some pictures if nothing else. So I think that's it for this week. Check the drop-down box below. I'll put links to Etsy shops, podcasts, patterns, designers, all of that in there. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Click subscribe. I'm always chuffed as nuts to have some more subscribers. Enjoy the last few days of summer. I hope you have some time to craft, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Cheerio!